Life is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. Well, in a world where challenges are plentiful, it's easy for us to feel discouraged, yet with enough guidance and support, most people can achieve more in life than they ever dreamed possible. You only have one life. Beyond your fears is everything you ever dreamed of and more. The Dr. STEM Show will give the voiceless a voice and the hopeless hope. And now here she is, Dr. STEM.
Hello, real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to invite you to a free 7-day manifesting challenge. Here's the thing. I believe that we all are capable and able to achieve our dreams and desires at any time, but we have to know how to be receptive, how to manifest and receive that which we are asking for. So for 7 days, I'll be sending you an audio or video for you to watch and then do the things that I say in that video. And then after 7 days, I can't wait. I'm so excited to hear what comes up for you, what you'll be able to achieve. So visit our website, www.drstemmy.com and www.drstemspeaks.com. Now, let's get into the show. Hello and welcome to the Dr. STEM Show. I am very excited because many of you know that I have been on a prowl to look for men that can come on the show and talk about men and mental health. So I'm excited to welcome Mr. Lou, I hope I say it right, Bardach, to the show today. Hi and welcome.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Yeah. So before we start, and I know, prior to this, we were already talking about your background, maybe I can just give you some time to talk to us about your background and, what you do.
Sure. Happy to. My name is Lou Bardach, and I am currently a registered clinical social work intern. I actually went back to school for my master's degree 3 years ago, and I just completed that. So my undergraduate degree was in psychology. I worked in that field for quite a few years, worked at a child and adolescent psychiatric facility, worked with a lot of LGBTQ youth back in the early 90s. That was a volatile period for sure. And then I ended up needing to move away from it. I felt I got burned out. Looking back, I can see I hadn't worked on my own issues enough, but I just needed to change course. So went back to school. I owned a .com business for about 15 years, my own business that did pretty well until Google put us out of business. And then, I just sort of hit what I would call a dark night of the soul sort of period of my own life. I had to sort of go in, do a lot of reevaluation. And through that process of, I would say, sort of healing my own wounds, I realized that, maybe my dream of becoming a therapist could be realized, that I think I can do that in healthy ways now. So I'd also developed a coaching business. So I work with people all over the world for that. But here in the state of Florida, I'm technically completing an internship is what I'm doing. So I'm working at a private group practice. And so working with people in that capacity and then also coaching worldwide.
Did you say you're in Florida?
I'm in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in St. Petersburg.
I didn't know you were in Florida.
Yes. Well, you look like you're in Florida right now. I see with your background.
I'm in Orlando.
Are you? Look at that. I was just in Orlando this past weekend. We could have gotten coffee or something.
Right? I didn't know that you were here.
Yeah, neighbors.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is even better. What I'm excited about is when I was reaching out and looking for men that are in this profession, right? I was hoping that I would also get men that have also experienced, dealing with their own mental wellness and mental health and their own issues. So that, again, the reason why, I want to do this is to normalize mental health for men. Because for years, I've been in private practice for 25 years. And, as you know, there are more women that are providing counseling services and there are more women seeking counseling services. Yes. So what is your experience as far as men are concerned and, them seeking mental health counseling?
Yeah, well, and I guess just to sort of dovetail off what you said, I sort of have gone through my own experience around that. And, I historically, I manifest. I realized I had panic attacks starting at age 20. So I'm 53 now. So I had very intensive panic attacks. I had anxiety stuff going on. For me, I'm a gay man also. And so a lot of it was just sort of, I was closeted the whole time. I played football, dated cheerleaders in high school, did that. I was just very closeted. So I had to go sort of through my own experience of that. And through that process, I got on antidepressants and I was on anti-anxiety medication. I was on for 25 years. On top of that, I was drinking. So, at the same time, people liked me. I was fully functional. I could it didn't appear as though I had, on the outside, I didn't really appear to have any mental health issues. But that I think is, part of it culturally, just sort of generally how we are, Western cultures, but men in particular, it's just don't ever let them see you sweat is the idea. And so, if there's something going on, you put that out there, that's going to be a sign of wisdom that people can probably even shame you for even more. It's just going to compound the problem. So, but I had to get to a place for myself where it was intense enough, it was bad enough that I had to get to a place where I just knew I had to fundamentally change some of the things I was doing. So I gave up alcohol, I gave up caffeine, I gave up nicotine. I went through a very intensive 4-year process. I found a way away from sort of the antidepressants and the benzodiazepines. So, but it was an intensive process. And some of it was sort of peer type stuff, 12-step program type things. I'm very involved in the Adult Children of Alcoholic Dysfunctional Families program, sort of a trauma recovery 12-step program. Meditation has been important for me. But to get to a place, I think a lot of men have to get to a place where things are really, really bad before they might open the door to saying, maybe I actually need some help.
So what do we do in order to change that mindset of waiting until really, really bad? And what is the definition of really, really bad?
Well, I think the definition of really, really bad is different for different people. For me, it was, I didn't know if I was going to make it to the next day. That's how bad it had to get. So, I don't know so much of this is just sort of culturally indoctrinated. I think things are probably shifting at some level, but realistically, it's coming to a place where I'm willing to sit with what I've been running away from my whole life. So in a sense, we think of the stigmas around mental health, but really it's the most courageous thing a person can do. And going inward is one of the scariest things I've ever done, to actually be honest and to be opening in myself to everything about me, the truth of who I am, who it is that maybe that I want to be, that I don't see myself as. Looking at maybe the masks that I put on, it's the most courageous thing that a person can do. So I guess with men, I really try to frame it that way, that this is not, coming from a place of deficit. It's coming from a place of courage to be able to do something like this. And I think too, I think we do coaching. And so for some people, it's the word, like for me, it's very similar what I do in the different capacities. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to see a therapist, but I'll see a coach. So, whatever works, whatever gets someone in the door to find a sense of connection. I'll also say that a lot of the men I work with don't want to be working with me when they first walk in the door. I work with a lot of men who their wives, their girlfriends, heterosexual men come in and it's like, yeah, I don't really actually want to be here. My wife made me come, or she said she'd end the marriage if I didn't come in. So, we sit on the couch and it's starting to work from a place where like, I don't even want to be sitting here with you. So, but to get in the door, to sort of start the process, opens the possibilities of what can happen.
I like that word possibilities, because then when we think of it as also an opening of more possibilities, mentally, even physically, of the things that we can do, I think it also brings in a different meaning to a man initiating the coaching or the therapist, because then it's not like you said, again, from a place of deficit. It's again from a point of, let me gain more insight into what is going on with me and what is possible for me. So then when you go in there, it's not about fixing this relationship or fixing yourself, so that this relationship can work. It's about you opening up more doors for yourself as well, is what I have seen with the men that I have worked with, that they end up seeing way more than they would have been able to see without the guidance, of us working together. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. And this idea of coming from a place of mental health and doing mental health work as a place of deficit, I just don't see it that way. I just see it as a place of opening to new possibilities, like you said, which can be scary. right? I mean, there's a lot of hope that comes with that, but change also brings a lot of fear for people. And the things, and what we're talking about is letting go of some of the things that maybe that we've held on to that helped us get where we are, helped us survive difficult times, and to say, you know, those things have become problematic in my life, and I want to learn new ways to do things. I want to get more honest with myself and open myself up to new possibilities, like you said.
Yeah. Do you find that there are also probably more men that are feeling a lot more inadequate, you know, as far as, you know, being in relationships or even in the job, you know, settings where, you know, for us women, we've had all this encouragement, empowerment, inspiration. So we're just like, you know, going in and becoming stronger and strong-headed sometimes, where it's becoming a threat to men, because now I'm seeing, and I don't know from your perspective as a man, do you find that, you know, probably we have a lot more men being threatened with the position that a woman has today?
I think that's true for some, for sure. I think, and maybe I'll talk at some point a little bit more about my specific modalities that I bring in. But I think of people as sort of coming from a place of having sort of multiple aspects of themselves, a parts approach, right? It's internal family systems is one popular modality today, and I'm studying that and work in that area. But you know, one of the parts that we tend to have are protector parts, right? That the sort of the parts that we put up, that this is going to manage how it is that people see me. It's going to manage the parts of myself that maybe I don't want people to see. Sort of the parts that might, an inner critical parent, right? Inner critic that might shame parts of myself to sort of keep myself in line. And so what I find is men in our culture have really robust critics. Women, a lot of times too, they just sort of take different flavors and forms. But yeah, men are really guarded and protected when they first walk in the door, a lot of them. And so, yeah, that's a challenge. And it's going to require a willingness to, again, sit down, to allow some of those layers of protection to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And then to have that open up. That can be, and again, men in our culture, never let them see you sweat, right? Men aren't supposed to cry, all of that. So anger in men, you know, can be really stigmatized. So, and I would say, you know, a lot of people would say men are probably less in touch with their feelings, right? But I don't know that that's true. I think just the ways, the types of protection that we have, women can appear as though they're much more in touch with their feelings, but a lot of times what they're doing, they're really focused on other people, right? Focused on other people's feelings and what's going on. So I think for people generally to actually come to a place where you're going to be in touch with your feelings can be really tough. And so men's layers of protection, the armor that we have, and that sort of provider sort of mentality and the aggressive sort of aspect, and not let them see you sweat, creates a lot of distance between that and the vulnerability that's required in getting honest with ourselves.
Okay. You mentioned a little bit about, you know, some of the modalities that you use. What are some of those that you've seen working?
So internal family systems, or IFS, is a primary modality I use. And like I said, it's a parts perspective. It was developed by a man, Dick Schwartz. And it's been around since, I want to say, the 90s, but it's sort of coming into fashion. And it's become an evidence-based modality, and really focused around trauma. It was developed around eating disorders, but really the idea is based around internal conflict. And this is, again, my understanding of it. Okay. But the idea is that I don't always have internal agreement. I may have, for example, a part of me that is a people pleaser part. Like I just sort of want to make sure I'm sort of towing the line, especially at work, and my boss thinks this, and I just want the pats on the back and the approval seeking. That is a part of me. That's a strategy for moving about the world. I may also have another part, though, that thinks the best defense is a good offense, to run people over, right? And I'm not about pleasing people, I'm about running people over. Well, these two parts may not be in agreement, right? And that battle of like how it is that I'm supposed to be and what's the best strategy. I may also have another part that wants deep connection in the world. Yeah. Right. And that's another part that might be in conflict. How do I bring that part forward? So internal family system is an approach that I use. I mentioned the adult children of alcoholic and dysfunctional families. That modality is called reparenting. Talking about inner child or inner teen, inner critic. So again, just sort of, these are different languages and none of them are set in stone. It's just what it resonates, but just a way to sort of create a framework to understand I don't always have internal agreement, and the person I'm with may not have internal agreement either. We're sort of a shifting focus in the way that we interact with each other.
Okay.
And then as far as other modalities, meditation is just a huge part. And to get men to actually sit still can be a challenge, right? Because we're doers. Men are traditionally doers. Yeah. And so to actually sit still and allow things to be quiet to the degree that I can actually start to become aware of that agitation that I'm running from the whole time. Right. And that, again, is also an act of courage. And so a lot of men come in, they're like, nope, that's not for me. And that's, wish I tried it, I hated it or whatever, but it's just a small practice, 5 minutes a day type thing. And so I work with a lot of people on what is it that will work for you to learn to sit still to where you can start paying attention to what's actually going on the inside and to start to tend to that, to attend to whatever's coming up for you. So meditation is a huge focus of the way that I work with people.
Are you working with them in person only, or you're also doing virtual?
I do both. And so, yeah, as I said, I'm in St. Petersburg and we're part of a group practice here. I would say, about half of the people come in, and then, another half are working remotely. And then again, my coaching, people all over the world, all of that's remote. So I've been surprised with how effective remote can be, how effective online can be. Like you and I are talking right now, it's not the same as being in the same room, and I don't think it doesn't quite capture that. But the power of what can happen, I've been really amazed with how effective it can be.
That's true. Do you have groups as well as individuals, or it's just individuals only?
I haven't. I'm not big on working with couples. I'd rather deal with one person's internal conflict than two people's external conflict. Different people like different things. That's not my thing so much.
That's true.
I tend to work with people who are probably 16 and over. Some people love working with small children stuff. That's not what I do. So I've done groups historically, and I think actually, I've had a number of people ask, like, I'd like to do this. So again, this internal work, there's no one who can do it for another person, right? I can't learn to sort of identify and work with my inner critic. I can't learn to tend to the most vulnerable parts of myself. At the same time, we can't do it alone. Like, how do I see my blind spots, right? I have to be able to do that. And again, for people who have, tough histories in childhood and stuff, that type of trauma is a wound of trust.
Yeah.
I can't heal a trust wound on my own. Yeah. Right. I have to do it with other people. And so sometimes working one-on-one with a therapist, but again, through some other modalities, or the power of doing work as a part of a group is it's just its own thing. And so, I've had several requests to start doing groups, and a number of them online. So I'm not exactly sure. I might think probably at some point that will happen, but I'm not doing it yet. Yeah.
Okay. Now, for those men that are watching this and going, so when do I get, to reach out and really say, I'm ready to talk to a therapist? So when are those times? What are some of the diagnoses or, symptoms that they might be going through that you might be a precipitator?
Yeah. Common diagnoses, anxiety, depression, stuff, addictions, I think, is a sign when those are the ways that we soothe ourselves in a sense, right? It causes all kinds of chaos in our lives and other people's, but in a sense, the purpose of an addiction is to distract or numb ourselves, to decrease pain. And so, that usually runs its course. It usually intensifies over time or expands over time to where it can be really disruptive in a person's life, or maybe they're starting to notice it's starting to become disruptive. They catch it early. That's a good thing if that can happen. So anxiety, I'm too agitated, depression, I can't move in life, or addictions and compulsions. Those seem to be the ones that generally sort of not, I would say for most people, that's probably what they would see. But then that pain threshold is going to be an individual thing. It's going to be how much am I going to tolerate in my life before I start exploring what other options might be.
That's true. So what are the advantages of working with a man for a male, client to work with a male? I mean, I know we both do the same work, but then
I really think it's individual preference, because I there's some women who want to work with a man. There's some men. So, and then gay men too. I work with a lot of gay men also. So those are, a lot of people are looking for that. I want someone who really understands. And I think that's what it is. I want someone who I really trust is going to understand me. And whether that's a personality type, or whether that's a gender or a sexual orientation or a race, whatever it is that allows someone to walk in and be with someone who's helping them and feel safe with them, that's what it's going to take. So I think a lot of men may say, well, and there's straight men that wouldn't want to work with me because I'm gay. That's just how it is. Yes. But for a lot of men to sort of work to work in tandem with another man, they're going to be like, this person's going to understand me more. There's my unique perspectives on here. They understand the challenges of what I'm facing. They understand the shame that I carry. And so someone who understands me, I think that's really what people are looking for.
Awesome. Well, talking about, you being a gay man, do you work with parents also that have, maybe teenagers? Because I heard you saying 16. Do you work with parents so that they understand how to support their young man?
Yeah, I mean, parents have, a child that comes out, or, gender issues comes up and we're in a transition. So this is, so for a parent, I work with a lot of parents. So actually I work with a lot of men around parenting and their relationships with their son. It just seems to come up, and I don't know, maybe that's just a vibe that I sort of walked into that I'm discovering, but a lot of the men that I work with, the way that they're able to tap into their own vulnerability oftentimes is through their children, because they know they want the best for their kid. They know that they can't just completely shame a small child, right, into compliance. We have to find a different way. And so as they sort of start to understand the tenderness of what it means to have a kid, and how they want to be a good father, to a kid, that sort of opens the door for them. So yes, when kids come out, it's a huge disruption. A parent has an idea. This is my picture. This is what I want for my kid. Yes. And whatever the issue is that comes up, and sexuality or gender can be a huge one. It says that doesn't fit my picture. Mm-hmm. Right. And I love my kid, right, but this doesn't fit the picture. So there's a grieving process. Oftentimes there's a grieving process that parents of LGBTQ youth go through, and to sort of walk through that, and to get in touch with that and move through that. So I definitely work with people, or LGBTQ couples, same-sex couples who have kids. Those are other issues that come up. What does that mean for the children that I bring into the world when they go to school, and it's like two mommies or two daddies? Yeah. So again, it's finding someone who you think you can work with, I think, is what's most important.
And the importance of having a supportive family, before you come out or once you come out, how important is that, to have an understanding and supportive family?
What I can tell you is it's detrimental if you don't, but and unfortunately that's in the history that we have, that's what a lot of people faced. So I would say I had a little bit easier in that regard than a number of other people. But LGBTQ youth are, suicide rates are, at least a third higher than the general population, because they move into a world and they say, I don't fit. Right, the way I love, or my attractions don't fit the picture, and my parents don't know what to do with it. I mean, kids oftentimes already feel completely alone with whatever's going on inside of them. I mean, this sort of sense of isolation that kids have, and that's just sort of a compounding issue. So again, a parent support. Parents bring kids into the world, and kids know that those folks, or whoever it is that the kids end up with, the primary caregiver, these are the people who are most supposed to be taking care of me, the people who are most in my corner. And when it comes to something as fundamental as who do I love, who am I drawn to in the world? Yeah. And someone comes in and says that's unacceptable, I can't live with that, you don't fit my picture, right? Or you're out of here, right? You can't even live here anymore. It's just devastating. Yeah. Right. So I would say, like, I'm glad that the world has changed since I was 16 or whatever. That's quite a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But there's still a lot of kids who are facing a lot of barriers, and that's too bad.
Yeah.
And especially here in Florida, there's a lot of things going on here which are making things really, really difficult for LGBTQ youth, and they're suffering.
Yeah, that's
heartbreaking. Yeah,
that's true. And I think the more reason why it's going to be more important to even have more groups and for support, because then people can,
that's a connection.
Yeah, they get that connection. So
important
for you guys as a practice. There's more work for.
Absolutely, yeah.
Practice.
And again, for men, I think tend to be fairly isolated, at least emotionally isolated. Men can have their peer groups and the people we play golf with or whatever it is, but how much do you talk about feelings, right? So oftentimes it's the emotional isolation which is the killer. I can't actually talk to anyone about what's truly going on inside of me, and I feel completely alone with that.
Yes.
Yes,
you're right. So how can families, best support their loved ones, especially the men?
I don't know. That's a good question. I've thought about that, right? I've thought about that. So one thing I always say is, what's the best way that I could support someone else? And that my go-to is take care of yourself. Yeah. I mean, that's just sort of this thing. And so, let's look at my side of the street. Is there something I'm contributing to here? Is there something I can own up to? But I would say trying to give men the space to be fully authentic and to be vulnerable and tender, because there's so much shame that men carry around that. And the idea, and I mean, look at middle school, it's still brutal today, right? And, someone shows their feelings and all the other kids pile on, and someone cries and they will carry that probably through the rest of their school years, right? So whatever we can do to sort of give men space to know that, whatever tender feelings you might have, that I can be here with you in that, and that it's okay. It's okay. So what I would say is, as far as men and supporting men, what's really important is for people, first of all, to own their own stuff, right? Sort of recognize that, in conflict with other people, I usually contribute that in some way, but also just allowing men to have space to be vulnerable and for that to be okay. So, if a man's feeling sad and tears come up, that can be okay. If a man has fears that are coming up, that is okay. And we can talk about that.
Yes. And one thing that I think I like, thank you for that answer. The one thing that I like about, also normalizing reaching out to talk to somebody, on the outside, or, which is a confidential conversation, is because if you don't have a supportive partner, and every time that you try to open up, you don't feel better. It actually feels worse to have opened up. I think it's very important for men to know that there is support outside, whereas, it can stand in the way of you finding, like you said, a supportive person that you can connect with, rather than just being in this environment where you don't feel supported, whether it's with parents or spouse or partners in there, right?
Fully agree with that. I appreciate you pointing that out, because sometimes the people closest to us aren't going to be our best supporters at some point in the journey, right? We trigger each other too much, right? And so, we have our own patterns and stuff. So to be able to step outside of that, go to someone who's more neutral, to sort of re-anchor into my own truth, and then to learn how to bring that truth back into the relationship could be important sometimes.
Yeah. Have you noticed that we actually have, which is a good thing, a higher rate of men now looking for mental health support, because of the COVID-19 effect? Have you noticed?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that too. And so, COVID is such a disruptor. And I mean, we'll be remembering this for years and years, but it did open the door, especially in the arena of mental health and sort of the more normalizing of telehealth. And so I think too, sometimes telehealth can feel a little bit easier. I'm so busy and I don't really have time for it. Well, it sort of diminishes that excuse, but it makes resources more accessible, and it makes connection more accessible. And so I think, I agree. It's a good thing. And it looks as though maybe it's opening the doors to people accessing help in ways that before COVID, it wouldn't have happened.
That's true. So how can people get in touch with you and make an appointment?
People can get in touch with me through the Cypress Wellness Center website, cypresswellnesscenter.com. And my own coaching business, that's also another website, Livetruebewell.com. And a lot of people are enjoying my YouTube channel. So I have a YouTube channel at loubardach.com. And so I have some interviews there, and I have some workshops that I did and some clips. So to get a feel of how I work with people, the YouTube channel is something that seems to work well for people.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't see that. I'll go check it out too right after this. Any books in writing that you've published that you're publishing?
I have three books, except they're from a previous career and all on tattoos. So you're welcome to check them out, but not really going to be on today's topic. But I have been involved again with the ACA program. I've done a lot of work development. So actually, I was involved in the development of this one, the Loving Parent Guidebook. So I talked about the parts modality of reparenting.
Okay.
So this is a book that I was involved in helping to develop that takes people through that, working with an inner critic, inner child, inner teen, developing an inner loving parent. There's mindfulness stuff on it, feelings and needs. There's an NVC, a nonviolent communication aspect to it. So it's a workbook. I think it's sold like 40,000 copies already. It's been out for a few years. Wow. So that can be a great resource for people too.
Okay. And that's on Amazon as well?
You can find it on Amazon. Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Oh, that's awesome. Any words of encouragement, parting? This has been really
encouragement to you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate you creating some space for me also. And it was a pleasure chatting. And, here we are neighbors. Maybe we'll actually, grab a cup of coffee sometime.
I know. If I come down, up that way, I will.
I'll host you. Yeah, we'll get together. We'll do it.
If you come down here now, I'm in Orlando. That'll be
okay. Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah, this has been really good. And to all of you, as Mr. Lou was talking about, it is very, very normal for men to seek mental health counseling. And there is so much support here among many men are now in the profession. So if you're one that says, I prefer, talking to another man, he is there. And we have, also many other ones that you can find through your insurance, health insurance, that you can call at the back of your insurance card. card and just ask them for names of males in your area that you can see. As he mentioned, I will put all the links, wherever you'll be seeing this video of, his videos on YouTube channel. Follow it, join it and see how he does his work. Thank you so much for being my guest. And as we said,
thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, namaste.
Bye, Dr.